I just want to come on and make this quick video in addition to the many videos that will be coming out on my channel. Um, I just want to, say that, with all of our lives, of what all that we have going on, and we have a lot of work and we have obligations, and then we have social media, which can tempt us into so many different things. However, um, you know, it really comes down to that feeling that you feel when you see somebody, when you see a notification come on and you feel tempted to go on that notification. Let's say that somebody was going live today and you had serious work to do. What would be the better option? Well, it would be doing the work that you need to get done. That's the better option. And despite how tempting it is, despite how uncomfortable it is for you to do that, despite how boring and monotonous and, you know, despite those feelings of feeling like you're missing out, feeling like you should be doing something, feeling lack of focus or lack of interest or motivation in the work that you need to get done. It's called work, and it's not always fun, and work needs to get done, and that's a bigger priority. So you really need to put your obligations before so many other stuff, and maybe draw those lines in the sand saying, guess what? I'm not going to watch any live streams from this person. Or guess what? I am not going to watch this. Or guess what? I am just going to watch this later. And I think the thing about live streams is I'm just going to flat out and say it. I am not going to do any more live streams on this channel because here's what I believe in. I believe that live streams are a huge part of what makes people feel guilty and FOMO for missing out on what other people have to give because it's in the moment. And they're going live in the moment. And I think there needs to be some awareness put on the fact that, it's fun and why not? But if we're looking at Pluto and Aquarius and we're looking at the dark side of technology and social media, it would be best if we would simplify and we would try to make people feel more content about themselves. I don't think that them seeing a notification and feeling that guilt and feeling that rush of, like, I gotta do this. And then you have other stuff that you need to do at a moment, that other stuff that you would like to do. Let's say family members coming over, whatever the situation is, that isn't necessarily going to make people feel content about themselves because they have something else. It's almost a responsibility. And if you're not careful, you can become enslaved to what the AIs, Pluto and Aquarius, are trying to gear you up towards. Is, continually being pulled back into social media. And it may feel like you're making sacrifices and you're doing something that you don't want to do at a certain time because you want to do this activity, but you can't do it because you have other obligations at the moment. It's really important that we get as simple as possible. What spiritual lessons can be applied for every single time. You know, you can look at it a multitude of different ways, but every aspect of life there is always a spiritual connection and a spiritual lesson. Even if it may seem to be super material, super practical, or super mundane, there's a spiritual lesson. And you can't get past the universe of spirit putting you in this situation where you have to do this work, because that spiritual lesson that you have to learn is more profound than any video or any pull of a notification that you get, even if it may have to do with spirituality. It's almost as if it will come across somebody throwing you a pet rock, which is just to say somebody underwhelming you but trying to persuade you to do what you need to do by saying, guess what? Here's a spiritual lesson. There are times when you need to get your work done. Now, I know that phrasing does not sound the most spiritual, but this is where healthy detachment needs to come into place. Maybe it's turning off your notifications. Maybe it is completely putting something aside without any exceptions to the rule of I'm going to put this aside and I'm going to choose to do my work at this time. And I will not allow myself get distracted. Or I'm just going to rob myself of something or cut myself of something if that desire is so intense. Or put it aside. Either way. But it's a feeling when you are doing something and you may feel that inner feeling of guilt that says you need to get this work done. It may be boring, it may be difficult, but you need to get yourself in gear, push yourself, and get this done. And another thing too is we're set up in this whole sphere of escapism. When we want to avoid certain problems in our lives, we choose to escape. But that's not always the case. Sometimes the best thing is to face reality. The best thing is to get the work done. There is a reason and there is a meaning why some obligations are important, more important than others. Some things are more important than others. If that is the case, then yeah, they are more important than the other things. And it may mean with work that you have to do in your life, with the myriad of responsibilities that you have to do, it may mean giving up so many things that you want to do, so many things that you enjoy. But you are giving those things up so that you can feel more peaceful and content. It is a question, and I'm not going to delete this video. It's a question of, there's a saying that anything that robs your peace is too expensive. What would you rather have? Your night taken away because you had to get work done, or that feeling of guilt that you didn't get it done? That is so intense. There are some times when, if you're taking a class and you see an assignment that is due that day, or some, other responsibilities. And it can be a lot, and it can be frustrating and overwhelming, and you may feel stressed. But it's a question of, calming down, breathing, slowing down, and being willing to sacrifice a part of your evening or a part of your day to get what you need to do done. Obligations are not only at work, family matters are also important here. You may want to do something, but there may be a family member, in the hospital. It doesn't have to be, negative, but just in general. Connecting with, the people in, your world is very important. Incredibly. And depending upon the situation, maybe that can be better for you and more important. Who knows? But, this is what I'm going to say, is that you will feel better once you get it done. You will feel better when you're not procrastinating. And maybe you do miss out on a certain activity, but you used your time wisely. And you can enjoy what there is in the present moment that is available to you after you complete that activity so much more than you can enjoy the activity that was going on when you had a bunch of stuff to do and you didn't get it done. It's about seeing the positives. Maybe I miss this opportunity to see a movie because I have a lot to do, yet I can catch up with this group of friends or my family and enjoy dinner together. It's about seeing the glass half full and seeing the positives and seeing the benefits and opportunity. And it's about having the willingness and discipline and maturity to, as hard as it is, try to get your ego mind, who's so stressed out and doesn't want to deal with it, put your ego mind in a seat and choose to get the thing done. And, and, keep going, basically, and keep working, and don't, give up on, that particular path, on that particular goal. That's very important. And depending upon how stressful the situation is, that may be necessary. Another thing is cultivating the mindset. This thing is more important than that thing. Or maybe reframe it. Flip it around. I'd rather be doing this right now than I'd be doing that, even if it's not true. You can do false affirmations. You can convince yourself that what I'm doing is far better for me and far more important than that live stream about Pluto and Aquarius that I wanted to watch. What I'm doing is far more important right now than an event that I wanted to attend. It's those kind of things. If you have a lot of work to do, and let's say you're in a class and you have to get it done that day, and then you see a notification about a live stream about Pluto and Aquarius, and you're really looking forward to it, you really want to see it, and yet you have other work to do. And you can also find those connections and tie those connections into what you're doing. Say, I can't watch this live stream about Pluto and Aquarius, but it has to do with Aquarius. It has to do with humanitarian issues. And I'm reading an article about climate change for an assignment I have to do for a class. I'm reading this article for a rhetorical analysis assignment that I have to do for a class, for example. And climate change is a humanitarian issue. Important. So you can also use that to convince yourself. It's about finding the value and the nourishment and the interest and the meaning from whatever you're doing. Maybe milking it for all it's worth. Who knows? But it ultimately comes down to getting the work done and prioritizing and being efficient and being disciplined and keeping at it. So, thank you for tuning in.